Evening, everyone. I feel like I'm not on though.
I don't think so.
I am. Okay, good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Town Council meeting for Monday, March 3rd, 2025. If you will please join us in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, thank you. We're going to move right into public comment. This portion of the meeting is specifically set aside for comments from the public who are asked to limit their comments to 2 minutes. Any person interested in providing public comment via email should email publicmeetings@rockyhillct.gov prior to 4 p.m. on the day of the meeting to have their public comments read into the record. So with that, is there anyone who wishes to be heard from the public? When you come up, just state your name and your address. Just come on up.
This might take a little longer than 2 minutes because they asked me to read the whole thing.
Okay, you got 2 minutes.
Okay, I'll read fast. Sean Gavin, 39 Hawthorne Circle in Rocky Hill. I've been actively following the Mission CT proposal for the town of Rocky Hill. When I was a child living on Farms Village Road in Rocky Hill, we had a significant fire in our basement. And if it were not for the Rocky Hill Volunteer Fire Department, we'd have lost our entire home. Luckily, we only lost some board games and air conditioners. It was a heartbreaking experience, but it could have been so much worse if the Rocky Hill Volunteer Firefighters didn't drop everything at their places of employment or with their families, hustled to the firehouse, and then to my home that day. I've had several of my friends participate as members of the Rocky Hill Volunteer Fire Department. They have all served with great pride for our fire department. I know that they all would have greatly appreciated the opportunity to train and prepare for their incredibly hard volunteer jobs in a top-class facility. Let us not forget that our volunteer firefighters are risking their lives to protect Rocky Hill. Mission CIT has presented an opportunity to enhance our fire training facility to a top-tier facility that all of our townspeople, and especially our volunteer firefighters, will be proud of to call their own. I have learned that, Mission CIT has had a 20-year relationship with the Rocky Hill Fire Department starting in 2004. As a business owner, I hope to have 20-plus year relationships with all my clients. A 20-year relationship doesn't happen by accident. Mission CIT has provided a needed service to our fire department at a high level for those 20 years, or the relationship would not have lasted 20 years. Mission CIT and this training facility will keep the Rocky Hill Volunteer Fire Department up to date with training mandate enhancements for years to come. Most importantly, this relationship and facility will enable our volunteer firefighters to be prepared at the highest level to provide the greatest support to our townspeople when they need it most. Mission CIT is prepared to spend tens of thousands of dollars of their own money to create an outstanding training facility. I realize that this is a great business opportunity for Mission CIT, but let us not forget that this is a great opportunity for our firefighters and our residents. As a part of this great opportunity, Mission CIT, and I learned this by watching the videos, they're offering Rocky Hill 5 free classes, estimated to cost approximately $250 each, approximately 12 times per year, totaling an estimated benefit of $15,000 to our firefighters in the town. Not only an incredible financial benefit for the town, but an incredible preparedness and safety benefit for our firefighters. They've offered a 20% discount on the Rocky Hill Fire Department's current $26,000 a year annual training contract, which would be an additional savings of $5,200. Structural upgrades to the facility are estimated to be around $100,000. Access to Mission CIT grant writing assistance service is another thing they mentioned. This will have an economic impact beyond the fire department upgrades to include patronage of our local restaurants, grocery stores, gas stations, and hotels. It could be a great opportunity for our Dream Cafe in town to provide catering services, including coffee and food, well, that's not spelled right, services for the attendees. Mission CIT will indemnify the town of Rocky Hill of its liability. I have listened to the concerns of the concerns that the Public Safety Committee has about the facility's costs that may be incurred. I agree that those concerns are valid and need to be addressed. At the February 18th Public Safety meeting and the Town Council meeting, it was stated that the negotiations between the Public Safety Committee and Mission CIT were further apart on some mutually already agreed upon terms. From prior meetings and the Public Safety Committee recommendation to the Town Council was to discontinue negotiations with Mission CIT. The prospects of making a deal with Mission CIT in the town of Rocky Hill are further apart because the Public Safety Committee has increased the cost being charged to Mission CIT for utilizing town facilities / the firehouse at each meeting. They went from proposing $65 an hour to use the firehouse to $600 per day. Also, the Public Safety Committee wanted to reduce the number of years on the lease of the structures that Mission CIT is gifting and enhancing for the town of Rocky Hill from 10 to 5. Mission CIT is looking for limited use of the firehouse, conference room, bathroom facilities. I believe the Public Safety Committee lost focus on the true benefit of this relationship, which is to exponentially increase the preparedness and safety to our volunteer firefighters. As was approved on the February 18th Town Council meeting, the town of Rocky Hill continued a mutual beneficial lease agreement of farming space at the Rocky Hill Community Farm, I know as Straska Farm, to for-profit farmers, and I don't see why we can't have a mutual beneficial lease agreement of the firehouse training space with for-profit Mission CIT, a deal that incurs far less upfront costs to the town than the purchase of the Straska Farm. And then I went into, in considering the great benefits mentioned above, I personally, this is just what I wrote, this is my opinion, would like you to consider the following provisions for the Mission CIT lease. A 5-year lease with 5 subsequent 1-year guaranteed renewable lease years, providing that Mission CIT continues to provide a mutually agreed upon number of training seats for the Rocky Hill firefighters, a 20% discount on training contract, and covering costs, making costs neutral for accommodations for the firehouse usage. A $250 usage fee for a full 8-hour day, a $150 usage fee for a 4-hour day. Fees to be charged on the 9th usage day of the calendar year. I don't know if you guys use different calendars. Beyond, i.e. 8 calendar days would be free, whether they're 4-hour days of free usage or 8-hour days. I believe that the benefits far outweigh the usage fee, but feel Rocky Hill should have some protections as usage hopefully grows going forward. If usage grows going forward, then more and more firefighters in our region will be better prepared and safer when they are called upon. I believe that these stipulations will provide the town with a great asset for our volunteer firefighters and firefighters across the region, and financial protections for the town of Rocky Hill. Lastly, I've written volunteer many times because I think it's extremely important that we remember that our firefighters are volunteering their time, their health, and risking their lives to protect Rocky Hill. If we can provide Rocky Hill firefighters with Mission CIT's potential life-saving training using an upgraded Rocky Hill training facility while saving the Rocky Hill taxpayers' money, how can the leaders of the Rocky Hill not exhaust every effort to complete this mutually beneficial deal? Thank you. At the end I wrote, I have zero relationship with the members of Mission CIT, which I don't. I've never spoken with any member of Mission CIT, and the information in this letter is 100% my opinion. The information enclosed is from watching the town committee meetings and the public safety committee meetings online, and I just want what's best for those who serve to make our community safe. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else wishes to be heard?
Go ahead, sir. Please, go ahead, sir. Go ahead. Hello, my name's John Taylor. I live at 20 Countryside, Rocky Hill, Connecticut.
And the first thing I want to do is thank you for hiring more policemen and for putting their retirement benefits back in order. It's the best thing that's happened in a long time. Someday you'll be able to put a sign on the exit to come into Rocky Hill that says the safest community in Connecticut for businesses and residents. I'm really here tonight, though, to more or less give the Republican members here the heads up. Because come election time, you're going to be asked the most important question that's being asked of every Republican here today in this country. And don't tell me that governmental politics nationally has nothing to do with what goes on in the communities like Rocky Hill. It has everything to do. You're going to be asked the question that if you knew what was started by the man in the White House who's in charge, or whichever one you want to pick, today, would you still, or then in November, would you still vote for him? That's a simple question. You don't have to answer it today. Take some time. Remember, it's going to be election time pretty soon. And this is what I'm hearing more and more. As I'm in the community, I have friends, I have Republican friends, who last night said to me, I wouldn't have voted for him. So every time I hear some comment to, well, the people voted for him, I'm wondering how many of those people understand what's happening right now in the country. Because I do. I'm an old man, I'm a progressive Democrat, and I'm proud of it. So anybody that ever wants to talk to me about how you feel, I'd love to be able to pass it on to that person. Tell the truth. Yeah, I'd vote for him again. Okay, fine. That's what America's all about. But don't hide behind silence. Silence is a cancer. I just want to thank you again for what you did with the police force and for giving me the opportunity to come up here and to be able to speak my mind about something like that. And I don't even know when the next election is. I just know we have them. Thank God it's still America.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Anyone else wishes to be heard?
Good afternoon. Can everybody hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay. Good afternoon, council members. My name is Jeff Gerace. I'm the deputy chief currently in charge of training for the fire department. I live at 9 Gaylord Drive. I'm here before you today in support of the proposed training ground improvements. I've already spoken publicly in a previous public safety committee meeting. However, I think it's important to reiterate some facts and thoughts before the entire council given this opportunity. In the interest of time, I'll keep my statement brief. I listened to a great deal of discussion about ensuring the taxpayers are prioritized in the consideration of the proposed improvements. As a taxpayer, I wholeheartedly agree and am always grateful that that perspective is prioritized. In this case, I struggle to see where the taxpayers are impacted. The proposed improvements are being funded completely by Mission CIT and will be supported and maintained by their organization. The additional consideration to provide the Rocky Hill Fire Department membership with a percentage of complimentary slots in their training classes is extraordinarily generous. Potentially $2,500 or more per class, depending on participation, of course. That should be considered as an ongoing cost savings. Another financial benefit of being in town is not only how convenient it will be for our volunteers to attend above and beyond their normal jobs, but the savings compared to sending them out of town to receive similar training. While Mission CIT is making an investment in themselves, they are putting a great deal of faith in a relationship spanning 20 plus years with our department. Please consider they are our training partner and will be extending to us exclusive access to these state-of-the-art training props on a weekly basis during our recurring training nights. For the town and the fire department, this alone constitutes nothing short of a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity, and it would have long-term impacts on the fire department's ability to effectively serve the town if lost to another department or an organization. In the past, I've spoken about our current training ground, the resources we have, and acknowledged the time, dedication, and resources it took to get it and maintain it to this day. While the fire service continues to refine and adapt to changes, the one constant that remains is the need for us to adjust our training to meet the challenges of the emergencies that we face. Again, we are grateful for the resources we have. However, we must face the reality that building methods and manufacturing components have fundamentally shifted the tactics we use to fight fires. and therefore, the amount of time we have to effect life rescue or extinguish fires has greatly reduced. We have no choice but to adapt. The only way to become proficient in doing so will come from modern and purpose-built training structures and methods. Modern fire codes and enforcement efforts of our fire marshal have played a major role in the significant reduction of structure fires over the past 20 years. Like any skill, experience is the best teacher. Having our firefighters experience fire conditions and utilizing extinguishing techniques must be practiced for us to become proficient, learn how to protect ourselves, and most importantly, save the lives and property to the best of our ability. We cannot grow complacent. We must continue to fight fires whenever and wherever they happen, and we must be ready. Lives are at stake, including our own. We accept that risk. My fundamental duty as the training officer is to ensure our department members receive the necessary training to safely and effectively serve the public. In the same way I would gladly stand next to any department or agency, like police or EMS, should they identify a need that ultimately serves to enhance their readiness to keep me or my family safe, I ask you to consider this request for us in a similar manner. To that end, it is my firm belief that the proposed improvements will present our department members with training props designed to meet the firefighting challenges today and in the future to better serve our neighbors and our families. To underscore that point, I ask that you consider what we do as firefighters is not for our own benefit, rather a commitment to serve our community and the people in it. You are our customers, and therefore, this is an investment in you. In summary, I ask that you endorse this opportunity to help ensure this and future generations are well served by offering the best opportunities to train our dedicated volunteer firefighters. I reiterate my personal commitment after a lifetime of serving in this department to continue doing everything in my power to best train and prepare our members for the many challenges we will continue to face. Thank you, committee, for your time.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who wishes to be heard?
Good evening. Can you hear me?
We can hear you.
Okay. Anna Carnelli, 59 Pratt Street, Rocky Hill. My dad was a volunteer fireman for 37 years. He was chief for 11 in this town until he retired in 2007. Fire safety was one of his biggest priorities. He knew the department had to grow with the town of Rocky Hill. Century Hills being built, multi-story apartment buildings, bigger businesses. That's why he made a referendum for the training ground behind Company 2. These firemen who are volunteers, get up during Sunday dinner, leave their families, holidays, gone, needed to be trained. We owed it to them. And not only do we owe it to our volunteer fire department, we owe it to every first responder, every one of them who put their life on the line and leave their families. In my opinion, by dragging this out and worrying about what to charge for a classroom in this great town of Rocky Hill that opens its doors to everybody and every person, we are showing that we do not support first responders. We are nickel and diming their safety. This is important. We have the opportunity to be a town that supports and grows safety for first responders. I ask you to take this seriously. These people put their lives on the line every day for everybody, and their families put their lives on the line every day for the people of Rocky Hill and people around this state. This is a project that screams Rocky Hill in the community base that we tout. I ask you to consider this going forward. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Okay. Thank you for having me here tonight. Mike Garahy, Fire Chief, Town of Rocky Hill, 180 Pheasant Drive. And I also want to thank the 30 members of the fire department who took their time out to be here tonight. Thank you, guys. I appreciate it. So once again tonight, I'm speaking in support of the Mission CIT Training Grounds contract. 5 months ago, we brought the idea of developing a joint firefighter training initiative utilizing the training grounds behind 52 New Britain Avenue to the council, and it was subsequently sent to the Public Safety Committee. One of our points was that during the past 10 years, the delivery of public fire protection has evolved, but our training grounds have not. Honestly, I believe the day of the stereotypical volunteer is behind us. The fire service is changing, and the town of Rocky Hill is changing. In 2014, our call volume was 551 incidents a year. Last year, it was 823 incidents, 50% increase in 10 years. Because of this, we ask more of our membership, and we do this in the name of safety. Our members need to feel safe. That's part of Maslow's hierarchy of basic human needs. And this fire department will not succeed if our members don't feel safe. Fires aren't what they were 30 years ago. They burn hotter and they burn quicker. Interiors have more chemical-based products, making the fires a lot more hotter and dangerous. Smoke contains more toxic gases than ever before: monoxides, dioxides, sulfides, cyanide. Quick little rule of thumb: if it ends in IDE, it's going to kill you. Incidents are becoming more frequent and more complex. To prove my point, just look at I-91. Our goal has always been to operate in the safest manner possible. And let's face it, incidents in Rocky Hill can be just as deadly as anywhere else. We need our membership to want to be here. No one wants to be part of an unprepared organization. No one wants to leave their house to get hurt. And we've always tried to create the most relevant and realistic training evolutions for our members. This gives our members the training and the knowledge to deliver exceptional service, which also allows for the safest working conditions properly. So in regards to training, the harder we train, the more competent we become. The more competent we become, the safer we are. After incidents, we talk to people. We find that when they needed help, we're not their first call. We're generally their last call. They call us when they realize they're out of options, and that's a real crappy situation to be in. And when that call comes into us, they expect the best, and that's what we strive to deliver. To see an example, we only have to go as far back as January 14th, the cold water rescue on the Connecticut River. That was a very high-risk, low-frequency incident, and our crews performed and executed the rescue flawlessly. How'd they do it so good? Training. And their training created instinct. Now, when we were in committee discussing this contract, I always got the feeling that this was looked at as some sort of profit-making endeavor for the town. That's not the case. The value in the Mission CIT contract is in its investment into the future of the fire department, as well as the investment into the training grounds. Please understand that training is directly tied to membership retention. And retention reflects organizational health. And retention is very much a practical matter. The bottom line is that it is much less costly in time, energy, money to retain an experienced trained member than it is to recruit and train a replacement. These modifications to the training ground will not only allow us to operate at a higher level, but also retain good members. Last month, we implemented a waiting list so that we can adequately train our 16 new members, some of them who are here tonight. That achievement is unheard of in today's local fire service. And this is the first time since we added Station 3 in 1980 that we've been in a position to do so. And these new members, along with our hardworking existing members, allow us to operate at less than 20% of what a career department would cost this town. I did the math this morning, so those numbers are right on. I urge you to support this contract because this contract is a good deal for the fire department, and this contract is also a good deal for the town and an investment in the department's future. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, Alan Smith, 112 Old Main Street. I wish I could just leave it there with the chief's words, but I have something else to talk about actually tonight. I sit on a few boards and commissions here in town, you know, nominated to those seats, and I don't speak on behalf of any of those, but I'm here to speak with my experience on those committees. And they're all volunteer slots, but we have some vacancies that have been there for a few months now. Hopefully, there's an agenda item here a little bit later for filling vacancies, and maybe you guys are going to fill those. But we have a few spots on important committees that have been left vacant by somebody either moving out of town or just resigning their position, and it's causing just some issues in terms of being able to complete those meetings. Sometimes we don't have a quorum, and also residents are getting delayed sometimes having some of their issues resolved because we either are in a different room that doesn't have enough cameras and we don't have a quorum and all of that type of stuff. So I just wanted to bring your attention to that and implore upon the majority party to fill a couple of those positions, particularly the Economic Development Commission. This is, a group of volunteers. We've got like 30 volunteers here. If anybody else, if you need to pick from some people, we've got residents in town right here that are great volunteers. But Economic Development Commission is charged with keeping in touch with local businesses and hopefully attracting other local businesses. And it's important that we keep doing business that way. Also, the Zoning Board of Appeals has a vacancy. It's been vacant since November. We've had to cancel a meeting. We just barely scraped through with quorum recently, and we have some things on the docket for March. So hopefully we can fill that vacancy there. And then there's a couple other committees that I believe get filled in different ways through applications and stuff. So if we could just roll that out maybe to town to get more people involved in some of those, that would be great. But once again, my hope is that we can get these filled up really quickly so we can continue doing the work of the town. And like I said, we've got a bunch of people that like volunteering right here. And maybe it's a little less dangerous also to sit and just talk about this stuff as well. We've got a waiting list. So anyway, thank you.
Hi, is anyone else ready to come on up? Ray Carpentino's coming up. Sure. Yeah.
Good evening, Drew O'Connor, 6 Knoll Lane. I'll come here as two factors, maybe not so happy with some people, but my daughter wants to join the fire department. 19-year-old young lady. She's striving to be a firefighter. She feels good. She met with the chief. She wants to do that when she comes back from college. So I have a vested interest in the training facility, too. I also look at it as a taxpayer. Been a cop here for 36 years. I was 25 serving the town. I was in many budget situations. See your side of the house. I see their side of the house. Passion on that side, disciplinary, budgetary restraints on your side. The biggest thing I ask for is it's hard to have a subcommittee by Town Charter 303 at the direction of Town Council. The mayor is to make a subcommittee. She has made a public safety subcommittee that people get appointed to. These people do their due diligence. They do their investigations. They do the disciplinary actions. They do everything that needs to be done for a process. And then they bring it presented to the Town Council. And that's your time to take their information and rely on them who have done their due diligence to present to you proper information that needs to be voted on. To go set that process and do something different would be unjust for what your whole process is. Rocky Hill's always been super progressive. Fire, police, EMS, always in front, always leading the charge. Fire service has always been a number one. All through the different chiefs, training was top priority, but also quality of life of their members, making sure they all felt involved, making sure they knew they had a charge. They felt the charge of carrying that RH Fire Department flag up the hill. Same with the PD. That was what it was years ago. Same with the EMS. EMS is doing that right now, bringing new members back on because the charge got lost a little bit. But you have tough things to do. All I ask for is that you send it back to the Public Safety Committee, find out where the cogs got broken in there, see what needs to be done to fix it for these gentlemen and young ladies so they can get their training facility, but the town gets a fair shake. I know when I got my tax bill this year, that was a pretty big hit in my family when I got kids in college. So I just look for you to do that. Your due diligence is not always easy. You're put out there to speak for the people. You're there to vote for the people and do what's right by your taxpayers. And forgetting about what they have at stake here also, besides their protection from fire, protection from police, you've been very generous to all these organizations. If you see something that broke down in that committee and it didn't come forward, and the chief wants it to be revisited, then it should go back to that committee who did all those things, knows the fine details. Because remember, the old saying in the police department is that information is in all those fine details where you're gonna find out where the breakdown is in the case. And when we figure all those fine details and put it all back together, then we get the true story of what happened, and we can make a proper decision when we used to make an arrest or not make an arrest. Same with anything in contract negotiations. You're spending a lot of money every year. That's a big budget every year you guys have to weed through as volunteers. You are volunteers. You do it for free, right? Except for the town manager. But I ask you to send it back to the Public Safety Committee at the minimal so they can be revisited, so they can get the proper training and get the enhanced thing, because the training chief says it. He's on point with everything he said. Absolutely. But you have to take out that passion part, bring it back to business. You are a business of, what, $90 million budget you manage right now? That's a big business. And if you think about it, you are the board. You run that budget, and you need to spend it properly, and you need to do your due diligence. Thank you.
Anyone else like to come up? You want to come up and talk? Just say your name and your address for the record, and then you can tell us.
Absolutely. Good evening, everyone. Ben Shehu. I actually live in Southington, so 51 Johanna Circle, Southington, Connecticut. I'm the attorney for Vatra. It's a nonprofit organization that helps the Albanian community, and it's our understanding that there's a huge Albanian community in Rocky Hill, and we're just here to thank you guys because you made it possible for us to open a class, which we provide for 2 to 3 hours every Saturday at the library in this town, where we teach the kids between the ages of 6 to 14 the language for anyone that's usually born here. We also teach them about the culture and the history. So that's why we're here today. And we were actually very surprised when we opened it. There's 20 kids that showed up. There's another 20 kids that are applying, and they want to join. And we estimate to be about 60 kids altogether. So maybe down the road, we'll ask maybe if we can get a bigger place. But at this time, we just want to thank the town, thank the people, thank the mayor, thank everyone that made this possible.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Last call for public comment. Okay.
Okay, excuse me, I have 2 public comments. The first one says, "Dear Mayor Murata and Town Council members, I write to voice my strong objection to multiple interruptions while Mayor Murata was presiding over a meeting of the Town Council on February 18th, 2025. The meeting minutes reflect that Mayor Murata was twice interrupted by Councilor Member Prakash while she was stating her point of view concerning the agenda item Mission CIT. This was not only out of order procedurally, but at odds with how we asked to conduct ourselves in the public realm. Honoring the procedural protocols of our public meetings is critical at all times, but never more so than at this time in our nation's history when we call upon everyday citizens to recognize the power of the people of the United States and the strength of its many proud states and municipalities. Notably, Robert's Rules of Order provides for constructive and democratic meetings to help, not hinder, the business of the public assembly. 3 guiding principles of Robert's Rules, as summarized by Cornell University, state, number 1, everyone has the right to participate in discussion if they wish before anyone may speak a second time. Number 2, everyone has the right to know what is going on at all times. And number 3, only urgent matters may interrupt a speaker. Town Council Rules of Procedure, Item 12. Robert's Rules of Order shall govern all meetings when procedures are not covered in the Town Council Rules or Town Charter. I will add, too, that I see this behavior routinely in other committees and commissions, but to witness it at the Town Council level was a greater concern. Should you choose to, read or enter this letter into the public record, I would have no objection. Many thanks for considering my point of view. Sincerely, Alan Baglia, 10 Esther Road. And the second public comment says, respected members of the Town Council, I am an unaffiliated voter in Rocky Hill. I am writing to express my appreciation for the great work that Councilors Prakash and Whalen are doing on behalf of all taxpayers in Rocky Hill. I have been following Mission CIT's discussion in public meetings on YouTube, and I want to express my deep concern regarding comments made by Mayor Murata and Councilor O'Sullivan in the council meeting of February 17th. Their remarks raised serious questions about their commitment to transparency and the responsibility to protect the interests of taxpayers in this matter. Councilor O'Sullivan's comment that a lot of demands of Mission CIT being opposed by the majority in the Public Safety Committee was nickel and diming, were tone deaf and out of touch. It's astonishing that Councilor O'Sullivan, who last year voted for an average tax increase of 18% on our tax bills, thinks negotiating a fair contract with Mission CIT on behalf of the taxpayers is nickel and diming. His comments are disrespectful to all taxpayers in Rocky Hill and undermine the excellent work of Councilor Prakash and Councilor Whaling in the Public Safety Committee on behalf of the taxpayers of this town. As an elected official, it is Councilor O'Sullivan's duty to ensure that every cent of taxpayers' money is spent responsibly. Dismissing concerns of his fellow committee members, Councilors Prakash and Whalen, who are doing their due diligence as nickel and diming, is not only dismissive of fiscal accountability to taxpayers, but also suggests an unwillingness on his part to conduct due diligence on behalf of the residents who fund our town's operations. Every public expenditure should be scrutinized, and such scrutiny should never be belittled. Furthermore, during the discussion on Mission CIT, Mayor Murata said, as much as they want to be transparent, she isn't comfortable with this drawn-out negotiation process when they have vendors coming to do business in town. She added that this is the first time she has really ever seen the town negotiate in terms and a vendor negotiate in terms at the podium. The mayor's apparent reluctance to negotiate in the public eye raises concerns about her commitment to conducting town hall business with transparency and accountability. The public has a right to be informed whether it is giving away tax dollars as multi-year tax abatements for projects like Kelsom Row, or whether it is a for-profit business like Mission CIT asking for permission to use taxpayer-funded facilities in town at substantial cost to the taxpayers. Taxpayers deserve leadership that prioritizes their best interests, not dismisses them. Therefore, if the mayor and the town council wish to reopen negotiations with Mission CIT and reconsider a revised contract, I would urge them not to undermine and circumvent the Public Safety Committee. Any revised contract being considered with Mission CIT should be sent back to the Public Safety Committee for reconsideration and review. This is an election year, and taxpayers will be watching your actions closely. Thank you, Scott Pesca, 64 Hidden Valley Drive, Rocky Hill.
I have a point of order. I noticed when I received that letter that the author spelled his name one way at the top of the letter and then spelled his name differently at the bottom of the letter. So since the author took the time to draft this and took the time to draft it in memo form and took the time to send it into the record, who would we reach out to make sure that we have his proper name so that he is adequately, his testimony is reflected in the record? That's a question for, I don't know, maybe Joanne. Would Joanne reach out? Because we have his email and say, you know, clearly we want to have the correct name and the correct spelling, and I'm not sure why it's not spelled the same, but we want to make sure it's accurately reflected for him. So would you be able to send an email?
That would be me.
Okay, thank you, appreciate it. Okay, where are we next? Do you have any more public comment, Joanne?
No, I'm all set, thank you.
Okay, perfect. Moving on to appointments and resignations.
Yes, Madam Mayor, for open space and conservation, we had a vacancy created by the resignation of Jody O'Connor. We would like to fill that by elevating Derek Kalin from alternate to full member. That leaves a vacancy for alternate on our side of the aisle, and we will fill that at a future date.
Okay. Well, we thank your prior member for service, and we appoint Derek Caitlin. Move him up. Thank you.
We don't have any.
Okay, moving on to the approval of the minutes, Town Council meeting February 18th, 2025.
Move to approve?
Yep, second.
Any discussion? All in favor? Any abstentions?
One abstention.
Okay.
Madam Mayor, can I just make a couple of minor adjustments to the agenda? Both new business items, A and B, I'd like to add discussion and possible action before those items.
Okay.
I'll second.
Any discussion? All in favor? Aye.
And one other change, I'd like to move new business item B up before the subcommittee reports. I'm sorry, A before the subcommittee reports.
Perfect.
I'll second.
All right, any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. Okay, so, yep.
Do we have anyone from Advocacy Unlimited? Yes. All right, so this is your application? Yes. Okay, so you can come up to the podium and just give a council a briefing of what you plan on doing.
Okay, so what we have on the agenda now is the Neighborhood Assistance Act application, Advocacy Unlimited, Inc., 2075 Silestein Highway.
Hello, my name is Michaela Fissel. I serve in the role of Executive Director at Advocacy Unlimited. We're a nonprofit based at 2075 Silestein Highway. We acquired the building in, I believe, December of 2023, and we officially opened in July of 2024. So we are newer to your community, but we've been in existence for offering programming for over 30 years. Our work is to provide holistic, peer-led recovery resources to folks who are experiencing mental health challenges, addiction, and trauma. So, yeah, we put in an application for the Connecticut Neighborhood Assistance Act for an HVAC renovation of the building. This is considered an energy efficiency upgrade. We have it fully quoted through Call the Bee. We went through a competitive process to identify the best vendor who could complete the services. And so Call the Bee did secure the partnership with our organization. So as you can see in the Neighborhood Assistance Act application, we have everything clearly laid out between description, need, area to be served, and also the plan to implement the program. We've also submitted the first page of our 990 as required as part of the application. And the timetable for the project would be start date March of next year, March 30th, and then extend through June 12th. And then we would be submitting our post-project audit July 31st. And then if you go through a couple more pages, you can see our proposed budget that we will be requesting as part of the application that will be out there for companies to donate on. So the total project will cost $141,848.63, and about $13,000 of that is for administrative expenses, which is quite low considering the amount of work that we've already done as a small nonprofit. We really try to invest all of our budget into the community that we serve. So receiving the dollars through this application will be really beneficial, so we can continue to invest our dollars in the community that we serve through Advocacy Unlimited. So please, I'm here to answer any questions you may have. I'll also allow Sean to also say a few words if you have anything as well.
Hello, Sean Sims. I'm the board president of Advocacy Unlimited, and as Ms. Fissel stated, we've been here July, I think it's 2 years now, going on 2 years. 1 year, yes, 1 year.
It feels like
It does feel
It
forever,
feels like
yes.
2 years, yeah.
But, you know, our corridor is central Connecticut, right down Silas Dean, beautiful neighborhood. We like the building, we like our neighbors, and we want to continue that. And so, as we propose, we put through the application. If you have any questions, please don't hesitate in giving us any questions that you might have.
Do you want to talk a little bit about the program?
The program is a tax credit program. It's designed for providing municipal and tax exempt organizations by providing corporation business tax credit for a number of different organizations, and those credits are based on the value of the work being proposed. In this case, they exceed the minimum to be eligible for 100% of tax credit. The program does require the municipal organization, town council, to approve and then to monitor the program, a very high-level monitoring, which would be done by the finance department. And at the end of the program, an audit would be performed at their cost. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. And then we just forward that information on to the state. So our involvement is
the Department of Revenue Services.
I'm sorry,
Right.
revenue. Our involvement's fairly minimal.
And what is the term of this tax credit? Is it a one-time tax credit?
Yes.
Yes, it's based on the donation that the corporation or company makes.
Right, so what happens basically is we provide the application, town council accepts it, there'll be a liaison, I assume, who will then forward that information to the Department of Revenue Services. Department of Revenue Services on their website will put up our application, and then local businesses can then donate. And what'll happen is every dollar that they donate will then go towards their own tax burden as a deduction, excuse me, as a deduction on their corporate income tax. So it's beneficial to both the company providing the funds and to us as getting this. Very needed.
Okay. Are there any questions?
I do. So what specifically is being asked of the town? Just a statement of support?
Well, actually, there's an approval process, and then once the approval process is complete, the town would then submit that application with minutes of our meeting and any other required documentation to the Department of Revenue Services. And that's pretty much it. And then the Department of Revenue Services will decide whether or not we are accepted in the program.
So as I understand the program, it doesn't cost the town any money.
No.
It's the town that has to kind of put its imprint on it in submitting the application with you to DRS.
Correct.
And then
Correct.
they'll be soliciting contributions that companies can use
There's
dollar
really-
for dollar to offset their state tax, but does not affect municipal taxes.
Right, so it's not in effect, we already have our determination of tax exempt status here in the town. That's separate. This is solely for state taxes, and there's no solicitation. It's just on the website, and any particular business can then look through and say, hey, that looks like a really good idea. And after that, the town's not involved.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
So is the wording for a motion say we support, et cetera, or we approve, or what?
Well, actually, does the agenda have to say, discuss
discussion, possible
We,
action.
we amended it earlier.
That was the amendment. Yes. Yeah, the old one didn't have it.
I'm sorry.
So are we in our, when we make a motion, are we just saying we support this, or we approve this, or
Yeah.
what is it we're actually
You'd be approving the application.
approving the application? Okay, so with that, I'd like to make a motion to approve the application for the Neighborhood Assistance Act written by Advocacy Unlimited on, at 2075 South Dean Highway.
Second?
Covered my glasses.
Any discussion? I just want to say one thing. I congratulate you for your business, and I applaud you for applying for this program. I often see these flyers around Town Hall, and I always get the letter annually, and I don't ever see anyone take advantage of it. So good for you for paying attention and taking advantage, and best of luck to you. Thank you for your service to the community.
Thank
You're
you.
welcome.
We gotta approve it.
We need to.
I know.
Oh, okay.
I'm just seeing if
You're like, you're
anyone else
wrapping up.
wants
I
to
wanna
say
make sure.
anything. Yeah. All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, thank you. Have a good night.
You too.
Madam Mayor?
Oh. Moving on,
Mayor?
yes.
I was going to request that we add something to the agenda to reaffirm our support for Ukraine, but in light, I think, of the potentially lengthy discussions on Mission CIT, I would request that we add that to the agenda for the next meeting instead.
How about you make a motion next time, at the next meeting?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I just wanted to call attention
I
to it.
appreciate that. Thank you. Subcommittee reports, finance?
Finance Committee has not met since the last council meeting. We're scheduled to meet next week, March 13th.
Government ops?
Government Operations didn't have a scheduled meeting since the last town council meeting. We are next scheduled on 2 weeks from tonight on the 17th.
Public safety?
We haven't met since the last town council meeting as well, and the next one is scheduled in 2 weeks. Thank you.
Senior liaison?
Senior Liaison meets quarterly. Our next meeting is April 8th.
Land acquisition and farmland preservation?
We met last week. Our town staff proposed possibly 98 community garden spots with 12 raised beds at the community farm. Next month's meeting, or this month's meeting, hopefully we're gonna lock in rules and application for garden plots. And hopefully we'll start advertising in April. The goal is to start the community gardens this year. That's the report.
Liaison to the state representative and the state senator?
Yeah, I reached out to both of their offices, did not receive any updates for tonight's meeting.
School liaison?
No report tonight. Thank you.
Capital improvements committee?
We did not have a meeting, no report.
Economic development subcommittee?
We do not have anything before that committee.
Okay, moving on to consent agenda, there is none. Moving on to old business A, discussion, possible action, Mission CIT
Mayor,
contract.
would it be possible to amend the agenda one more time for new business B with the town assessor for his 15 or 20 minute or less, let's say 5 to 10 minute?
I'll have him now, you mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, sure. Want to do that?
Yep, so I'll make a motion to move new business item B before old business.
I'll second.
Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Okay, Stuart.
Start.
Run.
3 minutes.
One less. So we have yeah, you just said what it is, right? Yeah.
Wasn't expecting to be up here this early. I was in for the long haul. Okay, I was here a couple weeks ago. I talked to you about the law potentially changing. Last week, the law changed. So how did it impact the town of Rocky Hill? Okay, so first, 1281-83, which exempted permanently and totally disabled veterans. It went from being an exemption for those that are permanently and totally disabled to those that are 100% permanent and totally disabled, and it's retroactive to October 1st of 2024. So that it impacts our current grant list. How does it impact us? We had 18 veterans who are permanently and totally disabled, but only 12 of them are 100% totally and permanently disabled. So I'll be notifying 6 individuals that their principal dwelling is no longer exempt under the law, and I will be sending out a notice to those 12 individuals that remain that not only their principal dwelling will be exempt, but their land as well. And how does that impact the grand list? It's a reduction or it's an increase of $400,000. So the benefit was a difference of $400,000 in assessment. So the impact that the legislature thought it was going to have by changing the language to the town of Rocky Hill is minimal. But that is the impact. 6 individuals will be notified saying that their dwelling is no longer exempt. The second part of the equation is the state passed a law modifying 1281-63. 1281-63 tells the assessor how we have to value all property in town, and in this case, motor vehicles. As I told you 2 weeks ago, the schedule of motor vehicles, and it started at 85% and went down to 15% in depreciation schedule. It is now starting, if the town so chooses, it can start at 90% and go down to 20% with a minimum assessment again of $500. In order to do that, if the town chooses, you would have to pass the local option. There's a timeline to that. It has to be completed by April 15th. So the timeline of approving a local option with the public hearing and all that. How would that impact the town of Rocky Hill is what you would probably want to know. If you change the motor vehicle schedule starting at 90% instead of 80%, it adds approximately $10 million to the grand list. So, so that's the impact of these 2 emergency legislation passed last week. That's all I got. Any questions? All right.
Stuart, for our next council meeting, could you put that together, kind of outlining within our packet? I didn't see anything in the meeting packet.
Like a
Just
chart?
Like a chart, something detailing it. I mean, I haven't followed all the legislatures.
Sure, I can get that to you.
Okay.
Yep.
Well, it sounds like we have to have possible action by April 15th.
You need to have a public hearing,
Right, so we
adopt an
gotta get this
ordinance.
on, yeah.
If you wish to adopt the ordinance, you have to have a public hearing. That's probably where you need to vote whether you want to have a public hearing or not. So.
To raise taxes.
Well, I'm not sure we have enough information.
That's what we're talking about.
To figure that out right now.
Well, you can schedule the public hearing and not do anything, but just don't want you to miss the opportunity to
Right, we have 2
take
council
action.
meetings before the deadline. So we have an opportunity to read the information and then schedule the hearing. But, you know, personally, I'd be hesitant to just schedule something without knowing exactly what we're talking about.
So the hearing could be scheduled for the first meeting in April.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just know there's a timeline for scheduling a public hearing.
No, I appreciate that.
Yeah, so that's all.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, let's go back to old business. A, discussion, possible action, mission CIT contract.
Madam Mayor, may I make a motion that Mission
Well,
CIT
I just wanted to say a few things before you make your motion.
Sure.
So in your packet, I had asked Ray, since the parties are back at the table, to sort of put together a chart, a very, very simple chart of where we started, what was negotiated, and where we are today. I know that there were some questions of the council at the last council meeting, and I've invited our town attorney, who is here. If you have any questions with respect to any of those sections, or if you have anything you want to discuss with respect to any of those sections.
At this time or after the town attorney presents?
I don't think he's going to present. He's just here to ask questions.
Oh.
I mean, to answer questions. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So as I understand it, looking at the chart, I mean, it seems to, and correct me if I'm wrong, I think there's three main open issues here, a couple of minor language things that I don't think are significant. The three things that I see, I think, are the keys. One is on the concerning the hours of operation. So the original agreement said that the hours will be by mutual agreement of the two sides. At some point, we put in some guardrails around that saying that you would need to be between the hours of 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. on weekends and no later than 9 p.m. on weekdays. And as I understand it, Mission CIT does not like that language. They would like those hours limitations stricken. The second issue that I understand is on the duration of the agreement. 10 years, 5 years, after 3 years, an option to, certain provisions if it's terminated early, but that seems to be a significant one. And the third one has to do with the fees, the daily fee for the firehouse and the utility fee that the town has requested and that Mission CIT disagrees with. I think those are the three main issues, and if anyone thinks that that's an incomplete list, I would invite any response on that.
Yeah, I do have one. The lack of firm commitment to a specific dollar amount in capital improvements, that's also a risk. We have heard numbers like $100,000, $200,000 a year, up to $1 million was mentioned at one point, but there is nothing in the contract which actually says what the investment will look like for those capital improvements.
Okay.
As a commitment. That's all I'm saying. Adding to that list.
Madam Mayor, can I make a motion that
Well,
Mission...
we're discussing right now. So you can make a motion, just wait until we're done discussing.
But I think if we
Yeah.
sent this back to public safety,
I understand, but you don't have the floor, and we're having a discussion. So when you have the floor, you can make your motion. Councilor O'Sullivan?
Yes, thank you. So on the hours of operation, I guess perhaps the town manager has some insight into that issue and what the respective concerns are. For example, we propose to cap it at 9 p.m. on weekdays, and apparently they don't like that. Is there actually a need to have it go later than 9 p.m.? That's one question in my mind. And then again, the 8 to 4 time slot on weekends. What do they have to say about that? What is there something specifically objectionable about the limitations that we propose on the hours?
I believe, I don't think the hours of, that are listed that the subcommittee recommended, there may be a restriction depending on what they're doing, what type of training they may be doing, and what they run into during the process of training. And if they run over a certain time, they don't want to be in violation of a contract. That's probably the issue. However, I believe the fire chief was comfortable with a mutual agreement, but I know the subcommittee wanted to maybe, make sure that it's not a nuisance to the neighborhood. So that's why they incorporated the hours of operation. 9 p.m. is late, but again, if they started some type of training late in the day and it goes over, I don't think they wanted to be in violation of the contract. Same thing with the morning. I'm not sure about 8 a.m. I mean, that's, we have a regulation, only regulation that we regulate for contractors that they can start at 7 a.m. That's about the size of that issue.
So the 8 a.m. is probably not the issue, but the 4 p.m. end time, I suppose, is. But it's mostly, as I understand it, a concern that they may run late. Do you get a sense as to how significant an issue that is for them?
I don't think it's a deal breaker. I hate to use that word, but I think it would. I think they are amenable to, as agreed upon by the fire department, mutually agreed upon by the fire. I think the original language is probably appropriate.
without the specific time frame limitations. Just leave it to the original language saying, as mutually agreed upon.
Yeah, I mean, but the subcommittee recommended the time.
Right.
So it's going to be up to the subcommittee if you want to keep those. I don't think it's going to be, it isn't the largest issue here. You know, of the three you mentioned, this is the insignificant one.
What is the largest issue?
Section 2
Okay.
and section 12.1. The fees. Section
Okay.
2, the initial term, and also the $600 fee for the site use.
Is there anyone here from Mission CIT?
Yes. Would you like to have?
No. But I would like to ask Attorney Roberts a question. Can you come to the podium? Only because, or you can sit with the microphone. There's a microphone right here, whatever you prefer.
I'll stand as long as it's not an hour.
Or you can. Yeah. So the original draft contract with the 10 years had a 1-year option to review. So every year, if we wanted to take a look at the contract, we were able to take a look at the contract. And it was my understanding that we would retain the capital improvements that Mission CIT put on.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Is that specifically stated in that we are retaining those capital improvements in that original one?
Yeah, I don't think it was specifically stated in the original one.
Yeah.
But it wasn't the original, but the town council made before it went to the public safety, the town council made some amendments, and one of the amendments was a 5-year term, but without the additional language. So the original was modified, and what we have in the chart is the contract that was forwarded from the town council to the public safety.
So is there an appetite for the 5-year with us being able to look at it every year and opt out and still retain the capital improvements?
I hate to speak on behalf of an applicant, but I will try to.
Would you prefer if the applicant came here?
I would, but however, just I think they feel, giving up their complete rights to the town. If the town decides to back out and they lose everything, so I believe they were a little cautious about securing their own company and making sure that they don't lose everything.
Okay. Can we ask Mission CIT to come up?
Hello again.
Hi, you have to state your name for her.
I'm Warren Fisher. I'm the CEO of Mission CIT.
Okay.
And I am Keith Albert with Mission CIT.
Okay. So when we see all of the different iterations of the contract, and I think I have a bit of an understanding as to how the counteroffers were made and why. But in the very beginning, I think that first draft of the contract was a good one, and probably needed some tweaks, and that's why we had sent it down to public safety. But I'm just wondering, is there an appetite before we go any further to discuss some of the other things to get back to where we were with that first draft with respect to that section, whether it's 5 years or 10 years, but I'm speaking specifically about that annual ability to renew or review and the retention of the trailers.
So we're pretty amenable to most of the ideas here. What we're not is, so we even put in this, quote, 10-year agreement, we can review after 3 years and review annually after 3 years. Mm-hmm. And we can both see, we're bright enough to know, is it working or is it not working for each other, and come to a mutual agreement at the end of each year thereafter. And we thought that was a good way to not go back to 5 years, but to give the town the ability to review, state their position. And I will be very frank. Our agreements with virtually every client that we have these annual training plans, they have the ability to end after any 3-month period. Why? Because we want to work with people that want to work with us, and we don't want to hold people by an agreement that our client feels is distasteful. So we need to go on our own way. And it also means that we have to prove ourselves all the time by delivering value on the agreement that we provided. We feel the same way here. The difference here is that we're going to make a capital investment in equipment, in props on your property, and we want to be able to recruit that. And whatever the value of that is, we've committed to a minimum of 4 props when we made the initial presentation. We didn't put a dollar value to it, but we committed to 4 props. The ultimate costs of those props are going to evolve over time. So with the initial investment and where we are in 5 years, it's going to continue to grow. And the maintenance clearly is a factor there. So we know that when we turn the switch on, day one, there's not 50 people out there saying we want to sign a contract with you. It takes a year and a half to get going, and it takes 5 years to build a brand and a business around this. And a Rocky Hill regional training school will take 5 years before everybody goes, oh yeah, we want to go to Rocky Hill, and then there's value. And if at the end of 5 years, it's, sorry guys, we know it's going well, but we don't want to do it anymore, that's hard for us to work with. So we're trying to find a middle ground that's acceptable to the town, but also allows us then to protect our investment. And that's really this. Initially we were asked, can you go to 5 years? We agreed, but then there were more things put on top of it. And the layering of the various additional things, our restrictions, payment to use the site that we've invested in and to use our props, it didn't make sense. I mean, it felt as if the town didn't want it. So we don't want to be any place where you don't want us. But we do want to be here because we know how strong the relationship is with the fire department, and we know we're doing the right thing for the town. So we need to find that middle ground that everybody's happy with this. And I think Ray will attest. I've been pretty amenable to most anything he's asked, except for paying to use our own props.
May I pose a question, Madam Mayor?
Yeah.
So question, and I understand your need to recoup your investment if the plug gets pulled early in the relationship. I get that. Can you give us sort of a break point? How many years is it that's kind of the trigger point where if it's terminated before them, you take the props back, but if it's terminated after that, it stays with the town? It seems to me that seems to be kind of the critical, duration we're talking about here is that who gets the props at that point.
The original agreement was 10 years, and with that 10-year agreement, we said, you own it. It's yours.
After the full 10 years?
After the full 10 years. And we still have the same feeling.
Okay, so your view is that you need to get a full 10 years to make the return on your investment before you could agree to leaving the props behind?
Walk away and say, okay, we've had a good run, and off we go.
And do you have any room to move south of that 10-year mark on that issue?
So here's the thing, and I'll say again, it takes 5 years to build a business. It takes 5 years to build a brand. So at that point, if we are asked to go, it's as much, understand what we're dealing with. We're dealing with Connex boxes. They're hard to move. We need to get trucks. We need a place to move them, right? And there's got to be a place that's willing to take them. So the practicality of it versus the emotional part of it is, do we walk away and start again and go rebuild it if somebody else will have us? That's what would have to happen, or we would have to find a place to take us. In all fairness, you're zoned for this. To go out and find land and get zoning for it, can be done. It takes a long time, and we have to work through councils like this to get there. So this is a huge advantage for us to be able to work with the town, use your existing zoned property, and then help the town by providing these training props for you, as well as we know that once we have a regional training center, all the grants that become open to the town, it's wide open. And if you remember, one of my colleagues isn't here tonight because he's in Cleveland at Firedex. Firedex makes PPE. They make turnout gear. And that's one of our partners who would be right in line to provide their gear to Rocky Hill at your training center that Rocky Hill Fire Department can use because they want their gear to be seen by all the other fire departments being trained at this training center. So all those benefits, we're looking that we have some assurance that we get to a point where, if we're doing a great job, and again, I put that provision, I agreed to the provision after 3 years. If we're not, we should separate. But if we are, we do not want to have a unilateral separation for convenience by the town for no good reason, okay? And again, the town, it's your land. You have all the cards. And we're just trying to protect the assets that we put in to this. If after 2 years you say we need to go, we're probably not going to enter that fight. You're going to be able to do what you want, but we're here to prove that it's of value to the town and to the fire department.
Okay, so I appreciate all that information, but I'm going to circle back to my question, which was very specific, and that was the breakpoint number of years that you need it written down that if the agreement is terminated before X number of years, you get to take the assets with you. And so my question was, you proposed 10 years, and my question was only this. Do you have any room off that, or if 10 years is the number? If that's the number, then that's the information that we'll work with. But all I'm probing for is there any latitude in that? I just need an answer to that question.
Am I willing to split the difference? Yes, and go to 7.5 years.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, just a quick question, kind of follows up on what Councilor said. What's the general expected life of these boxes, the assets you'd be building on, or bring onto the property and then building within, I guess? What's the, I know there's a lot of damage that gets done to them because that's part of the training.
It's part of the training. You're constantly rebuilding them and putting more stuff in. And it's somewhere between 5 and 10 years, depending on the actual box and the actual usage and what we're doing with it. It's not hard and fast. Is that?
Yeah, and remember that as those boxes need repair, need replacing, that's our problem, not the town of Rocky Hill's problem. There's another benefit here that's not been mentioned through any of these reports is, and the fire chief should be able to speak on this as well as the town council, that your ISO points you get from having this training facility help the town a lot and may change your ISO rating. That would be a direct benefit to any property owner in the town as far as insurance risk goes. So that's something hasn't been mentioned at all, but it is a gigantic value to people that have nothing to do with fire service, that are simply property owners to the town, within the town of Rocky Hill. Something to think about.
Thank you.
Madam Mayor, can I follow up with a couple other questions? Okay. So you said you'd be willing to go to 7.5 years, and this is a very picky point, I guess. I believe, though, that the termination dates are always on the full year anniversary, right? So that'd be 7-year, 8-year, 9-year kind of a thing. There's really no provision for termination at the 7.5 year mark. So it would need to be, if we're in that range, the 7.5 need to be either 7 or 8. So I just put that out there. The 7.5 doesn't really work, given the structure we have for when unless we had a special provision, that they could be terminated at the 7.5 year mark.
Neither one is going to break the deal.
Okay, thank you. So, so my other question is, again, my initial remarks, I saw 3 issue areas. So hours of operation, and we've talked about this a little bit. So the Public Safety Committee suggested kind of some guardrails around the hours, 8 to 4 on weekends, and no later than 9 p.m. on weeknights. And the town manager addressed that to some extent based on his understanding, but do you have anything to add to that?
Ray was pretty accurate. During the weeknights, volunteer departments train in the evening. So generally, we run classes 7 to 9, 6 to 9. If we run a 7 to 9 and it runs over, it's going to run over by half an hour. We're not going to go to midnight. Nobody wants to do that. Everybody wants to get home. On weekends, we generally, when we train at the fire schools, we generally go from 8 to 4, and sometimes it goes 8 to 5. And that's why I recommended we just arrange it with the town, with the fire department, and let them know what our training hours need to be for a class. If there's an issue, we'll have to adjust. What we don't want to do is violate an agreement because a class goes over, because the instructor doesn't realize that the class is supposed to end at 4 and went to 4:30.
So if the town still wanted some type of guardrails there on hours, could you live with, say, 10 p.m. on weeknights and 6:30 on weekends? I'm just putting that out there for discussion.
Yeah, Bill, these are standard times throughout the state. We're there every Tuesday night till at least 9 o'clock, but 9 o'clock, we're not closing the gates. There's still a little cleanup, a little pickup, so we're out of there about 9:30. School ends at 4 o'clock on weekends. Again, maybe a half an hour, 45 minutes, at the longest, an hour, till the gates are closed and the lights are off. But these are all standard times. We're not looking to go outside the rails on this stuff.
Understood. So I just suggested 10 p.m. for weeknights.
Yep.
And I said 6:30 weekends, 6:30, something like that would be workable.
That's
Yeah,
fine.
that'll work.
Okay. And then the third issue was the fees, and I just want to comment on that, not with respect to the presenters. And unfortunately, I missed the Public Safety Committee meeting where I think this discussion came up about the $600 and kind of pegged somewhat to what we charge for renting rooms at the community center. And I believe that was a rationale for that. And I just want to just share some thoughts on that. I think that's an apples to oranges type comparison. I mean, the rooms in the community center, many people and organizations want access to those rooms for a variety of purposes. There's a lot of demand for them. Charging these fees is necessary to manage that and not keep it from just being a free-for-all, and recognizing the demand for them. So that's one type of thing. With respect to, though, borrowing a firehouse that is used only for firehouse training, I just don't see that type of same rationale for that fee structure applying there. So the original ask was 600. Mission CIT, as I understand it, has indicated they're agreeable to 250. In my view, that is very reasonable. I would support that. And they've also sought a waiver of the hourly utility fee. I would support that as well. I think 250 all in, when you look at the relationship as a whole, I think is more than reasonable. So that's the extent of my comments. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments?
I just had a bit more of a question. The wording, now this is the wording in the summary, so I don't know if it's the wording in the actual agreement, but if you just, it says the fee is based on the classroom use. So is the classroom always used and then sometimes it leads to the outside, or like, give me a flavor of how the training works in this?
So it depends on the program being delivered. Many classes, there's 0 classroom. Many classes is entirely classroom. So it depends on what program's going on. So live fire training, you might be in a classroom for a couple hours just as a briefing, safety discussion, what's going to be happening, prepping the students for what to expect, what to look out for, what to, heads up for your buddy, what's going on with him. And then the rest of it is, involved with the props. So it's either one or the other. It's typically not, if we're using props, very little classroom is involved. Or it'll be maybe, tonight we're gonna talk about the classroom portion of this, the next time we meet for class, it's gonna be entirely outside on the drill ground. That's the type of thing. So it's not at the same time where we're taking half the class in the classroom and half outside. It's an either or type situation.
And so is the fee only, as this stated here, just for classroom, or for any time you use those Rock Hill facilities?
We wrote it for just classroom.
Okay, and that's intentional, okay.
Yeah.
Was that in the original?
There was no fees in the original agreement for that.
I see. Okay, thank you. Anyone else?
Yeah, I just have a clarification question. I agree with Councilor Sullivan on his recommendations. My only clarification on section 2, where the public safety revision noted that the annual program reviews by the public safety subcommittee at their annual meetings I don't see anything on the mission CIT counter relative to that, because I don't agree with that. There's going to be personnel changes in public safety. They may not have public safety background. I think it should be between the town manager and the fire chief reporting to public safety. Because I'm just thinking about, for example, the police department. We don't monitor the police academy or their outside training with vendors. So I just don't want this to be too combobulated with layers of reviews when it should be between the town manager and the fire chief reporting to public safety or the council.
The public safety proposal, you're speaking about the public safety proposal has the annual reviews by the public safety.
Right.
All right. So if that is adopted, then you're saying change that to town manager and fire chief.
Correct.
I think it does put a burden on a public safety committee to have to define the metrics for measuring outcomes and progress. And I don't know that, we don't know, in a few years from now that who will be sitting, to your point, and if they will be qualified to do that. And then does that require, for instance, our HR director to get involved and help us create a series of measures, which is, above our pay grade, which is nothing. So I kind of agree that, the initial review should be by staff, and then it will always get reported as a matter of process to a subcommittee who will vet it and then pull it up to council. No, that's my opinion.
I agree as well with both of you.
Any other discussion?
Yeah, I have questions. The hours of operation was another one that Bill O'Sullivan brought up, and I agree with that and the amendment to that. Making this a 7-year term versus a 10-year, frankly, the initial proposal almost gave us a 1-year term, frankly, the way I read it, and I could be wrong, and I don't want to bring that up completely, by the way, but I suppose I could live with the other one. It's really section 12 that really has a lot of questions for me, so I'll start. During our 20-year relationship, when you were doing training for our fire department, had you offered prior discounts for that 20-year relationship in using our facilities?
So let me be clear on that.
Yeah.
My colleague Pete Murato
Yeah.
owned a company called Fire Training Innovations. Pete Murato and Fire Training Innovations have been working with the fire department for 20 years. Mission CIT incorporated in June 2020. In 2021, we merged FTI into our company. So I cannot speak for what FTI and Pete Murato provided as far as discounts prior to 2021. Since then, We've been working with the chief on various projects, and we priced it to be fair like we do for everyone else. Did we provide a discount that I knowingly said, yes, give them a 20%? I'm unaware of anything since 2020, 2021 that we've done before then.
Okay, then, during that, they call it the last 4 years now, not 20 years, did other towns get trained here in Rocky Hill?
Not until,
I can help you with this.
help me with that one, yeah.
I can help you with this one. Other towns did get trained, but not by Mission CIT. They were more OSHA-required live burns, which they use our facilities, and that was limited to our task force towns, the 5-town task force, 4 other towns, and Rocky Hill. So that's who's been in there. Guys, help me out. Was anybody else in there? I don't believe so. Oh, we're shaking our heads. So it was just limited to our mutual aid and task force partners.
Okay, and did they, during those live fires, that's a training exercise, I assume, and with it comes a cost to those outside towns to train with our department, correct?
Correct. There was a cost, and that cost covered our costs of the training, whether it was a burn instructor, safety people, or the propane gas that run the burn trailer.
So in essence,
Liquid smoke
in
also.
essence, that helped us by having, sharing it with our other towns, because it saved us a little money.
Listen, these are the guys we call when we're in trouble, so this
Yeah.
absolutely helps us.
Oh, yeah, no, I believe in helping the
So,
other towns, yeah.
and definitely, and with us being there, although it's mainly their towns doing the live burns, similar tactics, we get to know each other, we see the apparatus, it all just comes into a play.
cohesive.
And quite frankly, our task force model is now the model for the entire state, and it started right here with Chief Kohanek.
You did answer, so it's your, Council O'Sullivan had mentioned that he's good with the fees as presented. Council Levine brought up the fact that we have a differentiation between classroom and training ground. And you did answer the question that we do have some nights where it's clearly just training ground and some nights with just classroom. So, so the nights that you use the training ground, there's in fact no fee.
Correct. And just to help you with the rationale, the props that we are planning to install use none of the town's utilities. We're responsible to bring whatever Class A materials we're going to be burning. We purchase them, we put them in. We don't use any of the gas. We don't use anything else from the town in this process.
And then with respect to the fee, as I understand it, our lowest fee for a resident, not profit, is $62.50 an hour, which at 4 hours is $250. And I'm going to assume for purposes of definition, 4 hours would be a half a day. So at the $125 proposed, we're already giving a 50% discount to a for-profit company. And then on an 8-hour day, it'd be $500. And we proposed $250, and again, we're classroom only at this point. So, I want to make sure that we know what we're saying yes to, or proposing to, that we're not giving away for free, for sure, but we are giving a 50% discount for that.
So we chose those numbers, because that's what we pay Fairfield and Litchfield and Eastern Connecticut fire schools for the use of their classrooms for a day.
And then on the utilities front, then obviously there's no utility usage, as you have spoken, for the training grounds, but there would be utility usage for inside the classroom, and thus that's the reason you're willing to pay the classroom fee. You mentioned dumpster. Are there materials that we'd have to be responsible for that get discarded?
We purchase the materials that are used. And at the end of the day, we clean up. And we have to dispose of the materials, ash, and whatever wood that didn't burn, into the dumpsters. And eventually they fill up.
Yeah.
It might take a year, it might take 2 years, but eventually they fill up.
So that's the
We'll pay for
waste
that,
we're
yeah.
talking about.
Yeah.
So just to keep this in perspective, for that fee that we're paying those regional schools, we didn't invest hundreds of thousands of dollars into those schools to use them to pay the fee. There's the difference.
Right. Well, we haven't quantified what equipment value is here, and we have noted that the depreciation of that equipment seems pretty quick, you know,
Right,
so
and that
5-year
depreciation
lifespan.
falls on us. as
No,
a
I
company.
get it, but so the point is you put in 100,000 every year, you're never really gonna get above 500,000 because you lose 100 of that and you add 100. So, you know, I hear you, I agree. I like the idea of having it here. I like Rocky Hill having a central, you know, place to come, and we can help our other fire departments for sure, and the task force that the other towns that were, it seems like a big win. You know, as one of our residents had spoken, we also have to be concerned that we're not missing some fees that may be costing us. And one other area that really hasn't been brought up is the environmental impact, right? So I'm going to assume everything you're doing is safe. You're the fire department, right? And if it isn't, you know, we got some trouble, right?
So we're regulated by EPA just like anybody
Which
else.
is good.
On what we're burning.
Yeah, we have a daycare there. We have a, you know, a preschool, you know, so there are some area businesses fairly close proximity. So, you know, it's just those questions that, you know, you could be long gone before something gets realized that something was wrong at that place. And then Rocky Hill's fighting that 20 years down the road, so. That's it for my questions.
I just have one additional question. I'm not sure if it's for you or for her, Chief. Is there any incidents for this location that require EMS standby?
Let me get that right from the camel's mouth. Mark, come on up here. We had talked about that the other day, and I want to answer this purposely. We need to have EMS notified, but the standby itself, I'm gonna let Mark hit this slope.
So that's covered under NFPA 1403. If we were doing a live burn as the Rocky Hill Fire Department, normally, we usually have an ambulance on standby, but as a regional training school, we're required to notify EMS so they can be available for us, but they're not required to be on site.
Okay. Just one consideration, though. If it's during a weekday or something, Aetna's online, is Aetna gonna, if Aetna goes there, do they bill Rocky Hill for their time?
No. We've already discussed it with Aetna. They'd actually provide us with an ambulance free of charge Monday through Friday if we need to.
Okay, perfect. All right, great, thanks.
Is there any way you guys could put some dollar amount in infrastructure in the agreement? A timetable, first year, second, third year, within 3 years, we're gonna invest such amount of money?
We made a presentation to begin where we have 4 types of props that we're going to install in the first 2 years. We're willing to commit to that. And the value of those props, it's going to cost us 25 to 50 grand a piece before it's all done. After that, we want also as a business to be able to evaluate, how's this going? All right, and if it's going well and we want more props, then we need to work with the city to be able to have the proper space for the next set of props. We know for what you have right now, we can implement those 4 props, and that's what the plan is. To then come up with a new set of plans in advance past 2 years, we'd have to go through another planning session, and I would have to go back to the chief and Pete and discuss what we would do after 2 years. We felt that 2 years was going to be enough time to get a lay of the land, understand it, understand how the fire school is going to work with these additional props, and also understand what our customers want, what the other fire departments want, in order for us to continue to put in the proper props.
My point was that there's nothing in the agreement of a dollar amount of your infrastructure investment into this. I mean, basically, you don't have to do anything. Yeah, I mean, you're saying you're going to, but
So I would probably think that would be cause for termination if we don't. And then you have every right in the world to terminate.
but at what point, though? 10 years and nothing was done? Or is there
No.
a timetable?
Yeah, I mentioned 2 years. If we haven't put a prop up in 2 years, that certainly would be reason to terminate the agreement.
Fair enough.
Is there capacity for, I'm, just to piggyback on Fran's question so we can keep it here, is there capacity for more than 4 props on this training ground?
I did not personally do the planning, so I don't know.
I didn't know if you just had an idea.
There is.
All right.
Can we ask Attorney Roberts just to comment on that? There's just like this thing, I guess we're just trying to see if there's gonna be something, maybe it's not a dollar amount, but maybe it's we're gonna put in two buildings or 4, or, just something in there that says, because I don't know how you can, like you said, for cause, but if it's not in the agreement, how can we do something for cause? That's what I'm not an attorney, I'm gonna let our attorney talk about that, but.
Yeah, I mean, if you put something in there that requires them to do X and they fail to do X, then, you notify them that they're in default for failing to do X and you can terminate.
Right, but as I understand, there's nothing, it doesn't say to do X in
We don't
there
have
now.
X.
It does it, or does it? I don't know.
I don't think so.
I don't think it does.
Well, 4 props, though. That's guaranteed.
Yeah, it doesn't
No,
say.
but it's
oh,
not-
we
but
could
is it
put
in the
that
agreement saying
It's
that?
not in it.
We have the agreement,
It's not an
we
agreement.
have in the agreement the minimum of the 4 props. We've talked about it, but it's not in the agreement.
No.
I didn't see
Would
it.
it be fair to say that you do an initial investment of approximately $200,000 and as needed, or, at least saying that would be the initial, so we'd have something that we're looking at, and then obviously per mutual agreement with the town, there may be additional or something of that nature?
So it's in our best interest that we get props up. Without props, we don't have a training facility, we don't have classes to give, we're not in business. It's that simple.
I'm just saying that that would.
Yeah,
that
I
think
understand
would
what you're asking,
Address
but
some of his concerns.
It's in our best interest, even more so than the town, that these props get done as quickly and efficiently as possible. Get in place, get in service, and we start doing work.
So it sounds like the middle ground there is if we all agree that there's going to be at some point 4,
Yeah.
right? And at a minimum, they're going to be $25,000, then we can just simply say, the idea is to get 4. It's going to take you, whatever you said, a year to get started, and maybe all 4 will not be there all at once, but that is the plan. And if we don't see it within a couple of years, then clearly that's cause to terminate. And I think that's reasonable.
Just to clarify, when we say a year to get started, we're getting started immediately. It's a year before we become, hey, Mission CIT and the Rocky Hill Fire Department, word is out,
Gotcha.
they're running these classes, hey, this guy took it, he has good things to say, and that's when the ball starts rolling as a business. That's what we're referring to when we say a year.
Gotcha.
That doesn't mean we're gonna be sleeping for a year, like, oh, 12 months is up, dang, the alarm just went off, hurry up, let's put this together and get going. We're going right now. As soon as this is a go, deal signed, we're moving as fast as we possibly can, because that's what business is all about.
Okay.
So, Madam Mayor, if I may?
Yes.
So I think it does make sense to have some type of commitment in terms of perhaps the 4 props. I mean, there's been a lot of conversation about committing to a dollar amount. I don't favor that approach. If you guys can save money, if you can deliver the product and save money, I think that's how you run business. If you can get someone to donate them to you and it costs you nothing, great. I'd rather see a commitment to here's what we're going to deliver on the property in terms of number of props rather than dollar amounts. That's my view on that.
These props are design build. They're unique. I don't think you're going to see many of them anywhere else in the country. So, especially built into that type of landscape with an 8-foot retaining wall. What you got to know is before we brought this to you October 7th, we spent 6 months planning this. We went back and forth on the type of props and the type of evolutions that we wanted to start off with. We talked about forcible entry under 0 visibility conditions. That's one of the props. We talked about basement fires. We talked about a forcible, a complete forcible entry prop with every type of lock and door entry that you can figure out to test the students. We talked about roof work and putting in a roof prop in there. So when we first started this last April, I had a plan in my head what I wanted to see. When they came in, they blew my plan right out. So we've done a lot of work on this, a lot of front-end work before we even brought it to you. You got to know that I'm also going to be bird dogging this, and I want to see some action, and right away, I want to see some stuff, because we're almost a year into this. So in my mental timeline, we're already behind. So, and from a very selfish standpoint, I've got a bunch of new people to train to bring them up to a level of competency, and this is going to be quite useful in doing that.
I think the 4-trailer count came in during Mission's PowerPoint presentation. They had a site plan. They had locations of the container. So, you know, if this continues on, probably in section 4, somewhere in section 4, 4.1, you can tie in the site plan that's part of the PowerPoint, you know, as shown on the power, you know. That's probably the cleanest way to do it.
I do think, and I'm just going to push back on this one thing. My mic is off. Because I just see that there are some folks at this table who really value some type of dollar amount and some who are comfortable without it. And my goal is to get everyone to support this, right? And I support it. But for those who are on the fence because of this dollar amount, is it just possible to say something like each of these trailers will have an anticipated value of not less than? I mean, something general where we're not assigning a dollar amount, Bill, which you don't like, but we are at least having a value which the other counselors are looking for.
So, Chief, help me with this. So we're custom building these and fabricating them to very specific specifications, all right? That investment is going to be between $25,000 and $50,000 apiece.
And maybe that's the language. Maybe it is of an initial investment of not less than that.
Per unit. If you were to go on the market and buy a prefabbed burn trailer like this, $250,000, $500,000.
The burn trailer we have up there now, I believe it's 4 years old, $565,000. So those are the prices we're talking about for firefighter training.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Greenspan?
Yep, different question. Chief, this more to you. 12-1, there's no disagreement here. Mission CIT should provide 5 student slots. Rocky Hill Fire Department for all Mission CIT-sponsored open enrollment courses at the training ground at no charge. Do you anticipate those being filled by our volunteers?
Yes, I do.
Okay.
Absolutely. I'll be the first to sign up, and I got a set of gear for you. We'll go together as
No.
partners.
Thank you. No, I just want to make sure we're using the slots that are available and
Yes,
help continue the training.
I absolutely see them being used.
Great.
Any other discussion? Counselor Whalen, you have a motion?
I do not.
Okay,
May I propose a motion,
you
Madam?
may.
Madam Mayor, I propose that we instruct the town manager to provide to the next meeting of the Public Safety Committee a revised draft contract between the town and Mission CIT containing the following revised provisions. Number one, that the Mission CIT commit within 2 years of the start of the contract to install at least 4 burn trailers having a total value of no less than $100,000. Secondly, that the initial term of the agreement be 7 years with the provision that if the town terminates the contract for convenience during those 7 years, Mission CIT shall be entitled to remove the items that they install. 3, that we retain the language that the operating hours shall be as negotiated between Mission CIT and the fire department, but within the constraints of no later than 10 p.m. on weeknights and no later than 6 p.m. on weekends. and that the fee structure for training classes indoors only be fixed at $250 per session.
Can I make either a friendly amendment or a suggestion? But the only suggestion was, I was wondering if you could do a special meeting, so, because if you do it during your normal meeting and there's more questions, we may not have time to react in time to approve it for the next council meeting, or if you do a special meeting, we'll have time to absorb it, then hopefully, if all goes, we'll approve it at the next council meeting?
So special meeting then maybe the week before.
Well, at a whatever date you guys determine, but,
Oh, I'm saying, you're saying a special meeting of public safety?
Yeah.
Devoted only to this agenda item, you mean?
yeah, so it can be done before the next council meeting.
We will take that into consideration.
Well, I think we need an answer now, but we're trying to figure it out now. So can you do a special meeting
So
or
that,
not?
yeah, so that way.
What is your proposed date?
The results of the meeting we can absorb, then we'll be ready to act at the next, because the next scheduled public safety meeting is right before the council meeting. We'll have no time to really.
Okay.
But if you do a special meeting, say a week before, whatever, in between, then the council will have time to absorb what comes out of that and hopefully be ready to approve it at the March.
So I'll take that as a friendly amendment, that my motion be amended to, for public safety to schedule a special meeting during the week of March 10th. Okay?
Thank you.
And one other item, and that's further to Councilor Emanuel's suggestion with respect to the annual review, that be conducted by the town manager and the fire chief rather than by the public safety committee.
Is there a second?
A second.
Any discussion?
So we're going to go by this contract, and then just the amendments you just made, those 3 amendments.
4. There's 4.
5?
5?
Yeah, I think the fifth one.
So let me just summarize. I think it's the commitment to the 4 burn trailers within 2 years. It's the 7-year term with the proviso that if the town terminates for convenience during those 7 years, that they can remove the props. It's the limits on the hours, 10 p.m. on weeknights and 6 p.m. on weekends. It's the $250 flat fee for indoor training, and it's the review by the town manager and the fire chief rather than by public safety. So 5 changes. And I don't know if I missed anything else that was discussed.
Can I ask one more question to Mission CIT before the vote?
Of course.
The Fairfield classroom, and you mentioned another town, I forgot what the other town was, you paid them. the
Eastern
fee-
Connecticut Fire School and Litchfield Regional Fire School.
Okay, but you mentioned that your fee was based on. the
8
fee.
hours for $250.
Right, and is that classroom only?
It's classroom only.
Do they have training grounds next to those classrooms?
They do have training grounds. We do not use them for our training.
You do not use them? Okay.
Yeah, as long as we're in the discussion phase, what is the rationale for sending it back to public safety?
Well, I guess the alternative would be the town manager providing us with the draft contract, I guess directly to the council. I guess it was just so that we could get it finalized, hopefully in final form and ironed out before the next council meeting.
So you're anticipating further negotiations?
God, I hope not.
I'm reluctant to do that because I don't know that we need further negotiations. I mean, and we can take a vote on it, but I don't support it going back to public safety at this time.
So you're proposing a friendly amendment that my motion be that the revised contract be included in our package for the next meeting of the full council?
I am. Thank you for wording it.
Okay, I'll accept that friendly amendment.
Thank you. Do we need a second to a friendly amendment?
I'll second.
Any discussion?
So we're not doing the special meeting.
That's the bottom
Sorry.
line.
All right, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any abstentions?
Abstain.
Any noes? All right, motion carries. Good deal.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Where are we? We are at the mayor's report.
Madam Mayor?
Yes.
May I just address the concern that Councilor Savini had about the...
We have to formally do that.
Okay,
And
I'm
so,
sorry,
no,
just
no,
wanted to
no,
make
one
sure.
second. No, you can stay there.
Okay.
So I have to entertain a motion to suspend the rules.
Motion to suspend the rules.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor? Aye.
Thank you for accommodating me. Counselor Savini, I just wanted to address your concern, so the benefit of the rest of the council, on the safety measure of what was being burned and how it was being burned in a 20-year, which I totally support. During the public safety meeting, I did cover that. It is all, when they say Class A material, that means it's all wood. It would be no different than a campfire or anything different. There's never a chemical used. There's never anything leaching into the ground. There would be no concern, and part of the reason that we're confident saying that is that we're in there fighting those fires.
Yeah.
We don't want to bring that home to our families either. So, you know, we're getting covered in soot and whatnot. We clean ourselves, but it's not toxic or in any way a concern. So I think that's an important thing for the council to hear and understand, is that there would never be a risk of leaving anything behind at that fire ground. So,
Great. No, I appreciate that.
okay, thank you. Thank you for your indulgence.
Thank you, Mr. Gerace, no problem. I know you just don't want to hear my mayor's report. That's okay. I'm not offended. I think I lost it, actually. Oh, wait, here it is. It's super short. Okay, well, first of all, Ramadan Mubarak. Happy Ramadan to all of our families in the community who are celebrating. We wish you a very peaceful, happy, healthy, and joyous month, holy month for all of you. Some exciting news. So as you know, we received a grant in collaboration with the town of Wethersfield for some safety and traffic calming measures along the Celestine Highway. It's just a study at this point. But as we prepare to look at sort of reimagining the Celestine Highway, the town manager and I have met with the town manager and mayor of Wethersfield, and we're going to be putting together this sort of reimagining the Celestine Highway task force. So I'm very excited about that, and I will keep you posted. While the fire department is here, just a shout out to everyone who was recognized and received an award at the annual awards night on February 22nd. It was a really nice event, as always. And the town manager received his own personalized helmet, so congratulations to you. We had our second annual State of the Town. I think it went very well. And we had folks in the audience, and they participated. We're going to get you a link that we can put on social media and the website, and the slide deck that we'll also put out for folks who are interested. We celebrated Black History Month with the Connecticut DVA. They had this phenomenal keynote speaker named Adele Hodges, who is the first African-American woman to command Camp Lejeune, one of the largest United States Marine Corps installations. It was really, really an enlightening event, and I thank the DVA for that. And then finally, we had our charity event for the Blue Star Memorial Project. We sold many, many pancakes and raised about $1,800. $1,800. That's a lot of pancakes. Yeah. So I'm really excited about that. And I want to thank everyone who supported us and everyone who donated to this. And stay tuned. In the spring, we'll have an announcement, and we're going to put that memorial in front of Town Hall, center of our current water fixture. And that concludes my report. Mr. Town Manager.
Ditto.
You can't ditto a report.
I just wanted one item. This Friday at 10 a.m. we'll be swearing in a new officer, and we'll be having new police officer, and we'll also be promoting from sergeant to lieutenant. Lieutenant Curtis. 10 a.m. Community Center. There'll be some beverages and some light breakfast. That concludes my report.
Great. And before we hang up tonight, I just want to say thank you to each and every one of the counselors here this evening. It was a really extraordinary example of bipartisanship and quality discussion, and I thank you for that. And with that, I'll take a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Good night.